I attached your press release on the old.
Brent, these are the presentations that you had sent us. Do you want to distribute those to the council members?
No worries, thank you. Yeah. And there's your presenter here. Hi, Brent. I will No, they're in there. They're in there.
Okay, we will reconvene the regular council meeting for March 13, 2017. We had originally opened the meeting so that we could go into a closed session for discussion on a property matter. So we'll now pick up where we left off, and I'll ask members of council if they have any declarations of interest tonight. Seeing none, Mr. Deputy Clerk, we can proceed.
Your Worship, we have the adoption of minutes of the previous meeting.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did miss the one. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Yes, there is a report from the Communications Officer regarding the community engagement strategy to the waterfront user needs assessment, and the action recommended that the matter be added to the agenda.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Darling. All in favor? Carried. With the addition to the agenda, I'll now ask again if there's any declarations of interest. None? Okay, now we can proceed.
Thank you. The action recommended that Council adopt the minutes of the special council meeting held on February the 8th, 2017, and the regular council meeting held on February 27th, 2017.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Seguin. Discussion on the minutes? None? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, next on the agenda we have a presentation from Keira Knightley and Lisa Horn regarding the Northumberland County 20,000 Homes campaign.
Okay. Well, maybe you could come and introduce yourself since you aren't Keira Knightley. Like, as I said, I know Keira Knightley.
Good evening. Yeah, we are not Lisa Horn and Carrie Knightley. We are Kim O'Leary. I'm the Acting Housing Services Manager for Northumberland County. And along with me is Jerry Blinick, who is from Forecast, our 20,000 Homes Coordinator.
Okay.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing us to come visit your council. And we have here tonight a report from the 20,000 Homes campaign that Northumberland County, along with our partnering agencies, took in November. And I'm actually going to hand it over to Jerry, who knows this data inside and out, so she'll give you your presentation.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim. So thank you for the opportunity to present the results of the 20,000 Homes campaign. The 20,000 Homes campaign is a national movement of communities across Canada who are working together to house 20,000 of the most vulnerable Canadians by July 1st, 2018. In September of 2016, Northumberland County joined this movement through a motion by Council and committed to collect person-specific data on anyone who is experiencing or at risk of homelessness across the county, with the aim of housing 3 of the most vulnerable people experiencing homelessness across the county. So what this involved was over the week of November 14th for 4 days, 85 trained volunteers fanned out across the county and conducted surveys using a survey tool, which I'll explain in a moment, at service agencies, food banks, libraries, community meal programs, and other places where we were informed by our partners and people with lived experience of where we would likely encounter people who are experiencing or at risk of homelessness. And we were working very closely with 17 partner agencies who were part of the advisory committee in moving this campaign forward. So what we found over those 4 days was there were 302 unique individuals and families who were surveyed over the course of the week. 58 individuals and 17 families reported to be experiencing homelessness, and this included 26 children under the age of 18 who were living with their families at the time. There were also 179 individuals and 48 families with 65 children under the age of 18 who reported being at imminent risk of experiencing homelessness. Now, to identify people, we use the Canadian definition of homelessness, whereby people are either completely unsheltered, so these are people who would be living rough or outside or in public spaces without legal right to be there. People living in emergency shelters like Transition House or Cornerstone or the Women's Shelter in Alderville, or people who are provisionally accommodated without permanent tenancy, so living in rooming houses or couch surfing, living with friends or family. There were also an additional 20 individuals and 5 families who were identified as experiencing homelessness but who were unable to complete the survey. And what we really want to underscore is that these numbers are, first of all, just a snapshot in time, and also very likely an undercount of the experience of homelessness across the county. We were unable to absolutely comprehensively count everyone for a number of reasons, and those are outlined in more detail in the final report. So the survey tool that we used during Registry Week is called the Vulnerability Index Service Prioritization Decision Assistance Tool, the VI-SPDAT. It's an evidence-based tool used across North America, and it has a lot of value because it helps us to assess vulnerability as a result of homelessness. And when we're talking about vulnerability, we're talking about vulnerability to increased instability due to homelessness and even death due to homelessness. And so by using this VI-SPDAT survey tool, we were able to get a sense of what are the needs of people who are experiencing homelessness in our community. And what we found is depicted on this slide here. And I want to draw your attention to the purple segments of the slides. So those are people who, according to the survey, were determined to be at high risk or high levels of acuity based on complex social and health needs. And what you see is that there's a very high proportion of people who participated during Registry Week who have those high levels of acuity. Now, in other communities across North America where this tool has been widely adopted, what the trend is that there's a very low level of people with that high acuity and far more people that with low acuity and moderate. But what we're seeing among the homeless population in Northumberland is a high level of acuity among people who are experiencing homelessness, and therefore, as we think about how to better serve people to resolve their homelessness, we have to take into account that the level of complexity that people are experiencing in their lives is very real, and our responses need to reflect that. Now, what we see among those who are at risk of homelessness is more what we would expect to see. Most people are in the low acuity level, and there are some in the moderate acuity and very few in the high acuity levels. For individuals, it's really quite small, and for families, it's a little bit higher. And what that means is that we can prevent homelessness by better referring people to resources that already exist in our community or improving those services, and then directing more intensive supports to those who have high levels of need. The following slides summarize some of the really outstanding results from the Registry Week. So first of all, the times that individuals reported experiencing homelessness was an average of 2.5 years for individuals and 7 months for families, which means that a number of people who are experiencing homelessness in Northumberland County are chronically homeless. That means that they've been homeless for 6 months or more in 1 year. This is a marker of, again, complexity and acuity, partially because what we know is that the longer that people are homeless, the longer they are exposed to the risks and traumas of homelessness. Below the time spent homelessness, the time spent homeless, there's a summary of notable populations. On the left are individuals, and on the right are families. And what we see are a summary of some of the populations that are prioritized nationally, and as we can see here, they're significant in our communities as well. So there are a number of veterans who are experiencing homelessness. I want to particularly draw your attention to the number of Indigenous people experiencing homelessness in Northumberland County. According to the 2011 census data, 2.3% of people report having Indigenous ancestry, whereas in our results we see that 28% of individuals and 24% of families who are Indigenous report experiencing homelessness. And this is reflected across Canada and is really a marker of our the colonial legacy and ongoing systemic discrimination faced by Indigenous people in our community and across the country. I also want to highlight the presence of youth homelessness in our communities, and that youth homelessness is notoriously difficult to count, and so these high numbers are very likely an undercount of the experience of homelessness by youth in our communities and are still fairly significant. What we've seen reported from the age-friendly data in Northumberland County is a discrepancy in what we found in terms of the percentage of seniors who are experiencing homelessness and what they found in their survey. So we are assuming that the numbers that we're seeing is again an undercount. We also found that every single family experiencing homelessness in the community is single parent led. Finally, we also want to draw your attention that the highest proportion of families and individuals who are experiencing homelessness are adults aged 25 to 59, and what we know is that group of that part of the population has the least income supports and poverty reductions interventions directed at them, whereas seniors have OAS and GIS, and families with children have child benefit supports. These are results highlighted by our partners. The first is that there's a very high prevalence of physical health issues among those who are experiencing homelessness and at risk of homelessness in our county. Again, so this includes either having a chronic health issue, avoiding seeking medical help when sick, having a physical health condition or disability that caused their housing loss, or that has limited the type of housing that they can access. There's also quite a high proportion of individuals and families who have experienced abuse or trauma that they correlate with their experience of homelessness and risk of homelessness. And we also wanted to point out that for most, they are not new to Northumberland. Most of the individuals most of the families and people at risk of experiencing homelessness are from Northumberland, have lived here for over a year. Among the individuals experiencing homelessness, it's a much higher proportion of people who are new to the community. But what we found is that there's not a predominant community from which people are coming. We wanted to highlight the financial costs of homelessness to our community. And what this graphic demonstrates is the costs for homeless individuals in the past 6 months for emergency health services in the last 6 months. So the total cost is almost $300,000. What we also know is that the costs are accrued mostly by a small group of individuals who access services frequently. I can actually draw the numbers. It's a so 21% of surveys, 22% of survey respondents access the emergency department more than 3 times. So it's a fairly significant proportion of a small group of individuals who are using services frequently and accruing high costs. We were asked to outline what would be the cost savings of addressing homelessness in our community, and we don't have a firm and comprehensive answer to that question, but what we do know is that the costs of not addressing homelessness are much higher than the supports that are available to support people to be housed and stay housed. And those are summarized on this slide. In Saskatoon, they were able to do a comprehensive study with baseline data demonstrating access to services prior to participating in a Housing First program, which wraps around supports around individuals and gets them housed as quickly as possible, and post. And what you can see on the far right, the column on the far right, is a significant drop in service use across every single service for those who have been housed using Housing First. So what we are recommending is that we need to move from an emergency response to homelessness to one that is focused on prevention and accommodations and supports to house people and keep them housed. In terms of next steps that the 20,000 Homes Advisory Committee partners and the county are taking is to first have a coordinated response to homelessness where frontline service providers are working together to better coordinate services and address homelessness. We are also building a framework to allocate resources in supporting those who are most vulnerable first. And as part of this, we are building a by name list. So throughout the registry week, we were able to collect and know every person who is experiencing homelessness and at risk of homelessness by name, and also know their unique needs. And we are building this list in order to create tailored, individualized responses for people. And there will also be an in-depth review of the function of homelessness services across the county, the goal being to transition to that Housing First approach that I mentioned earlier. In terms of recommendations, we recommend that the data from the 20,000 Homes campaign be used to inform the upcoming Northumberland County Poverty Reduction Strategy, that the data also be used to inform systems reorganization, that it be used to advocate for increased resources for housing loss prevention and homelessness response. We know that what currently exists is not adequate. And also we recommend that the data be used to develop population-specific strategies to prevent and resolve homelessness. So again, those notable populations: indigenous people, youth, veterans, seniors. And I'll just close with the following recommendation. Homelessness exists in Northumberland County. It is a complex issue that requires attention, further analysis, dedicated resources, and systems-wide commitment to ensure that solutions are possible. Ending long-term homelessness is not only about finding stable, permanent housing, but reordering our systems of care to best support individuals and families with adequate income, high-quality health and social supports, engaging education, and employment opportunities in order to prevent homelessness entirely. So thank you very much for your interest in this work and for your ongoing support and collaboration to work to end homelessness together.
Well, thank you very much for that presentation. Having been on the social services coordinator at the county for 6 years, there's no doubt we always knew that homelessness was a real issue in Northumberland County, but it was always anecdotal information we had. So I'm really glad to see that this survey took place. I think it took place last fall, and so now we can quantify just how, what the needs are. So I'm a real believer that if you can't measure something, you can't improve it. So now that we're starting to measure, I'm really confident that we'll start to move forward and make some improvements. So thank you very much for that and all the work you've put into it. Like I said, being on social services, I know this has been moving along for a number of months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up to members of council now who may have some further questions for you. Councillor McCarthy?
Thank you, Mayor Brockenier. Thank you for this. It's astonishing and very much needed. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly investigate, but because of the Saskatoon information, and I was really struck by the hospital visits. Is the Northumberland Hills Hospital any part of this? And what would be their... How would, in the shorter term, is there any sense of how to reduce those uses that leverage the medical system, which is already stretched to the limit? Are there any short-term wins on that front?
Well, to answer your question about their involvement, Northumberland Hills Community Mental Health is an active member on the advisory committee, and also 2 staff members are at the Homelessness Coordinated Response Team meetings, which meet bi-weekly in order to resolve homelessness of individuals. So there's that connection there. They do have an intensive case manager who provides housing supports and tries to keep people out of emergency services. Yeah, I mean, we also have hospital-to-homes workers and crisis workers who are in the hospital, and we're trying to better create those connections and ensure that people who are experiencing homelessness are the ones connecting to those services first, and also keeping track of that emergency service use in order to really focus our efforts on those individuals who have those high level of needs and are really using crisis services rather than community-based supports. But what we also know is that the case management supports that allow people to stay housed and support individuals to go to appointments and find their family doctors, that those supports are not adequate in the community. And so there's opportunity to work with provincial and federal funders to advocate for further supports in the community as well.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy again.
Just a follow-up comment of acknowledging and thanking the county for this initiative, because it's multifactorial. There isn't one solution. It's a bunch of people working simultaneously. And I had a quick look at the partners and that, and I thought, well, it's a darn good start, but there's a long way to go. And I thank you so much.
Other questions from members? Councillor Seguin?
Just a quick question. Those people that are homeless, how do they get ER and hospital support once they get there? Is there any kind of system in place? Because if they don't have a resident address, do they have an OHIP card? Do they just show up and the hospital looks after them? I mean, it's a question they always ask us for our OHIP cards, and I'm just. I know there's a lot of people that don't have physicians, but I just wondered how that's handled.
I don't think I can actually answer that accurately. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? So, as I said, I appreciate the presentation. When we do know homelessness is real. The chief of police is here tonight, and he can tell you that occasionally they will pick up, they'll find someone who's wandering around and doesn't have a place to stay. The county at one point was giving out motel passes so that if the police found someone who was in need of overnight accommodations, they could give them the pass and take them to a motel. So, we've got a lot of people working on it, but as Councillor McCarthy said, it's not enough. The problem is real, and we need to address it. So, thank you very much for your presentation.
Your Worship, next we have a presentation from Ted Amston, Coburg Poet Laureate, regarding poetry contest for Earth Day celebration at the Coburg Ecology Garden.
Welcome, Ted.
Hey, Mayor.
As usual.
Glad to see everybody here, all my fans. Well, maybe not much back here, but I know you guys love me. The reason I'm here tonight is we're having a contest for poetry in conjunction with the high school kids. You should have something there in your paperwork, right? Is that right? Good. Okay, so I won't belabor it. It's been done in previous years by Wally Keeler. We're picking it up, the PIX people, which is Poetry in Coburg Spaces. And we found when we've gone into the schools, the high school students especially, they love poetry. And so we're expecting a big response. And tonight, I want you all, come on down. April 22, people. You'll feel like you've gone to church afterwards. It's usually cold, the wind's down there. We hand out strawberries, and we sing and we dance and we hold hands. Well, we don't hold hands. But you'll come away feeling better for it, okay? Seriously. You old guys, you should come on down, please. We have a good time. I'm going to read one poem from one of the students. This is by Joanna Greer. She was, at the time, this is from 2012. She was in grade 11 at CDCI West, and she was a winner. And her poem is about living. As children, we learn how to live, how to nurture, help, and heal. We know about trees and birds and bees, how they live, what they are, where they sleep. As we grow, we learn more how to think, how to nurture, help, and heal. We know about life and hardship and pain, how to live, what to be, where to sleep. As we age, we still know, we remember how to nurture, help, and heal. But we care about us, our hardship, our pain, how we live, what we are, where we sleep. As adults, we ignore, we forget how to nurture, help, and heal. We keep what we want, discard what we don't. Nothing lives, nothing is, nothing sleeps. We are told, we are hassled, then we remember how to nurture, help, and heal. We help all the trees, birds, and bees, and they live, and they are, and they sleep. So that's it, Mayor. Any questions?
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, Ted.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for, as Poet Laureate, promoting Coburg, but also for promoting poetry in the town of Coburg. I think it's, you're engaging the youth of the community, and I think that's really something that's worthwhile. So I want to thank you for that, and I will open it up to members of council who may have a question or comment. Councillor Darling.
Yes, Ted, I just wanted to confirm this wasn't a misprint. It is 6:18 a.m., right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You got to get up early. You got to dress for it too.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Yes, through your worship, to our Poet Laureate, Ted. Yes, I've attended many, and they're very worthwhile. And all I can say is, if you are able to attend, it's a great day, but do dress in layers.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, John.
Okay. Councillor Sagan.
Thank you for coming, Ted, and a nice poem. Ted has graciously asked me to be a judge for this, and also invited me to come to this 6 a.m. Presentation. So I'm going to really try to make it, but I'll get to bed early that night.
Yeah, and I'm remiss there. I should have mentioned that she is one of the judges, as is Tammy Robinson from the library, the CEO.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you.
Your Worship, we now move on to delegations. First is a delegation from Elaine McDermott, President of the Rotary Club of Coburg, and Nicole Beattie, Co-Chair of Coburg 150 Organizing Committee, regarding installation of a flagpole in the Rotary Waterfront Park as a contribution to Canada's 150 anniversary celebrations.
Okay. Welcome, Nicole and Elaine.
Thank you for having us. Well, welcome everyone. I would like to note for the record that Peter Delante is not here with me this evening. No. One of my favorite things about co-chairing the Coburg 2017 committee is meeting our active citizens who are coming up with innovative and creative ideas to celebrate not only Canada as a country, but our local culture and our local community. And that has come about tonight with the Rotary. Our project is quite straightforward. The Rotary would like to put a Canadian flag and a Coburg 2017 flag in Rotary Harbourfront Park. The flagpole would stand right outside of Millstone Bakery. The cost, which the Rotary is generously covering as part of their legacy donation to the project, is a Canadian flag, a Coburg 150 flag, a flagpole, cinder blocks, and the necessary installation fees. So we're here tonight to request permission from the town of Coburg to erect two flags, one flagpole, in Rotary Waterfront Park as a contribution to Canada's 150th anniversary celebrations. We're looking for the necessary approval of the location, as I mentioned, just east of Millstone Bakery, and support from the parks and planning departments to assist in sourcing quotes for the purchase and installation, which I know Elaine has already actively begun on. So I will pass it over to Elaine, this was really the brainchild of Elaine and the Rotary, and I know she has a few passion comments to make, as well as will answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council for inviting us to come and make our presentation to you tonight. Rotary feels very, very strongly that and passionately, that we would be very proud to be able to fly the Canadian flag in what is known as Rotary Waterfront Park. So we're asking you today for permission to do so, and we would like, along with the pole and the flags, we also understand that there is flag protocol, and so that if we wanted to fly 365 days of the year, 24 hours a day, we understand that we will have to illuminate the pole and the flags, and we are dedicated to replacing the flags as need be as they wear. I certainly do hope that you will allow us to do so, and we are looking forward to also dedicating the flagpole and flags in the name of Canada's 150. Thank you very much for your consideration. We hope to hear from you soon.
Okay. Well, thank you, Elaine and Nicole, both. Just so you know, we haven't forgotten. Last year, when we proclaimed the 100th anniversary of Rotary Foundation, we also committed to put a cairn in Rotary Waterfront Park, commemorating that very, very special event. So we will be, I'm sure it'll go back to the Parks Department for consideration, and we will make sure that we talk about the location of the cairn at the same time. I'm going to open up to members of council who may have any questions. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Through your worship, thank you, President Elaine, and for your presentation, and Nicole. My only question is, do you have a time frame in mind that you would like this done by? Because I realize we're in our 150th year for Canada. We have a special July 1st, which I know Rotary Club is highly involved in. And I've also been made aware just recently we're going to have an April 8th, 9th ceremony for Vimy. So I guess my question is, do you have a target date that you would like us perhaps to meet?
The sooner the excuse me, the sooner the better. We'd definitely like it in by July 1st. And also, being the president until July 1st, I would really love it to be during my year. But we will have to work that out with the Parks Department, I'm sure. I have been in touch with Teresa, and she has expressed an interest in working with us, so we've already started the basis for that.
Okay. Councillors again.
Thank you, President Elaine. And the other lady up there.
Nicole.
I know. I think this is a great initiative, and I'm really happy that you're also going to be supplying replacement flags, because 24/7 and 365 days it does take a wear and tear on the flags. The illumination aspect of it, is that something that would involve some electrical work, or or just spotlights?
I believe that we'll have to work that out with the Parks Department.
Okay.
Probably spotlights, but we'll have to see because of the electrical
Okay,
component.
we'll keep on this to make sure it gets there hopefully during your presidency. And thank you both for coming, Nicole.
Thank you very much. At the same time, I would like to thank Council very much for your support of Rotary International's 100th anniversary of foundation. It was a wonderful day, and your gesture was very kind. Thank you so much.
Are there any other comments or questions? Councillor Darling?
Yes, I'm just thinking in lines with Victoria Square. There was some proposals made for flagpoles at that site too. Were you in discussion with that committee at all in regard to this?
No, because the proposal we have is because of our pride in flying the Canadian flag in Rotary Park.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, discussion? Okay, then
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, both of
Thank
you.
you.
And as everyone has indicated, it will get great discussion.
Your Worship, next we have a delegation from Barry Johnson, Northumberland 89.7 FM, regarding the 2017 Municipal Community Grant application.
Okay, welcome, Barry.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'll move this microphone up just a little bit. Yes, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, Honorable Councillors, thank you for receiving me this evening. My name is Barry Johnson. I'm a volunteer for Northumberland 89.7, truly local radio. As the event planner and coordinator for some of the events that we hold, I was asked to come here this evening to present our case. As you know, Northumberland 89.7 is a not-for-profit, community-based radio station. Everyone, with one exception, is a volunteer. We put a lot of effort and time into trying to bring quality through radio broadcast, interviews, and so forth to our community. Many of you, in fact, I think all of you, have been invited and at some time participated in an interview at our station, and thank you for that. The reason for this presentation is that there was a difference in the interpretation of the original grant application that we had submitted, which was for the use of the band shell and a cash grant of $1,500 as to for the radio station to support the Canada 150 Summer Music Series concerts. I believe that it's my understanding that the Treasurer, Mr. Ian Davey, had recorded it as $1,500 was to be used for the purpose of renting the Victoria Park band shell. So this presentation is to provide some clarity to that. A little bit of background as to this music series. The concept of promoting music with the local musicians at the band shell was actually originated about 2 years ago with an ad hoc committee using local musicians who are offering their talents at no cost to play at the band shell. And we really don't have a budget for promotion, for media and posters, etc. However, the final concert for 2016 was a remarkable success. We were fortunate to actually have a Juno Award winner perform for us. His name is Kike Escamilla, Juno Award winner 2015 for the World Music Award of the Year. Remarkable individual from Mexico, relocated 3 years ago from the very southern area of Mexico, moved to Toronto to build on his musical career and ended up with a Juno. We were fortunate to be able to bring him to Coburg. We had to pay for that through some sponsorship money. The interesting thing about this particular concert was that all the power, electrical power consumed by the musicians, their amplifiers and the PA system, was generated by bicycle power. They brought in stationary bikes. There were 3 bikes at the front of the stage, invited audience members to come up, pedal bikes. There was monitoring devices that showed you how many amps were being consumed, and they stayed within that range. The entire concert was a success. We had approximately 150 to 200 people. That was the general census of that. It was a great end to a bit of a rocky start, if you will, for that concert series. This year, we're taking a different tactic. We did a postmortem as to what worked and what didn't work last year, because we think that there's value in bringing free music to the community on an ongoing professional basis. However, due to lack of funding for concerts through our nonprofit organization, we weren't able to get the message out in a timely and professional manner. So for 2017, we decided to do a couple of things. We decided to change the date from Thursday to Wednesday, a midweek concert. There's a lot of other communities in the area, Port Hope, Coburg, Belleville, etc., that have concerts on Thursday evenings. We also wanted to change the quality of the music that was being brought forward, so we had a vetting process established as to who would we ask and what kind of music they would be playing that would be generally satisfactory to the listening audience. And also a proper execution plan for promotion so that we brought as many people to the park center as possible. We found out that many people didn't know about it, or it was misinterpreted as to the intent of the concert. So we went through the vetting process, and out of 14 original artists that we approached, we boiled it down to 8 very talented artists. Out of these 8 artists who agreed to participate, 6 are actually recording acts. 5 of those recording acts are from this area immediately. They have CDs available. You can hear the music on our radio station. As a note, all of these musicians are performing their musical talent services at no cost to us. In exchange, our collateral, our means of commerce, if you will, is through promotion. So we are offering the bands and the musicians on-air interviews. We're playing their music on the radio. We're doing prominent advertising for them through posters and rack cards. And that seems to have fit their financial bill this year. We cannot go cap in hand next year to repeat this. The opening act for this year, Canada 150 Summer Music Series, will be Coupe de Ville. They're an act out of Newcastle. They opened for the Havelock Jamboree last year, Canada's largest outdoor live country festival. I'd also like to mention that the community of Port Hope, Colborne, Brighton, and Belleville all have music concerts in their parks all summer, and they pay the musicians between $600 and $1,200 per performance. I know that for a fact because I'm a musician myself, and I'm actually playing at every one of these this coming summer. So I have a pretty keen sense as to how their money is being spent. We will also have 2 radio hosts at each concert who will be the MC of ceremonies, and aside from managing the concert, they will also promote the names of the sponsors of these concerts at the beginning and at the end of every concert. The funding model that we have is just being established this year, but currently does not actually exist in principle. So we can't pay these musicians to play at the Canada 150 Music Series. But we have received donations from 2 major sponsors. Both Cameco and Vandermeer Toyota have stepped forward to offer us funding so that we can pay for promotion and offset some of the other costs that are going to be direct out-of-pocket costs for the Summer Music Series. And we're hopeful that the town of Coburg will also provide and authorize the $1,500 grant towards this end. Now, the promotion of this concert is going to be multifaceted. Starting on June 1st, we will distribute 300 11 by 17 color posters around the immediate Coburg area. We will also distribute 400 3 by 8 inch event rack cards at point of purchase displays at retailers in the downtown area. We will start airing Canada 150 Summer Music Series advertisements promoting the overall 8 concerts. It's a halo effect that we will drive through the airwaves and all our listeners to be able to be aware of what's coming up. We've also recorded, pre-recorded 8 30-second adverts for each of the entertainers that they will be aired 1 week prior to their performances. And we have scheduled live on-air interviews for each of the artists within 1 to 2 days of each performance. So we maximize the saturation approach before their performances. We will be playing their CD original music on air up leading to and past the performances. At Victoria Park, we will have the Coburg 2017 portable banners displayed on either end of the band shell. Lara Scott and I have met. She's advised me of the protocol of having these banners available, and we will make sure that they're proudly displayed at either end, and the radio station banner is going to be in between. All of our printed promotional material includes the Coburg 2017 logo. On your printed copies, you see on this particular page, page 3, a draft copy of the rack card design. It's ready to go to print. Your logo is on the left at the bottom. The artists have agreed to post the concert schedules on their individual Facebook pages and on their band websites, musicians' websites. We also have all of these dates now included in Snapped. We will also have, I talked to Erin Wakely, she's going to install into the Coburg event calendar all these dates into the Coburg event calendar. Also, every week in Seen and Heard on Northumberland Today, they will be in print in the local newspaper. We're going for a saturation model here at every opportunity that we can get to bring community members and people from the immediate area out to these concerts. The benefits to the town, I think, will be well recognized very quickly. The Canada 150 Summer Music Series will be promoting Coburg 2017, not only in print, on air, and on the banners at the stage. The Canada 150 Summer Music Series will bring local and out-of-town people into the core of the community every Wednesday evening and to the beach area for the midweek concert. The increased activity in the park will create business opportunities for local merchants, local restaurants, and bar owners. The Canada 150 Music Series will also make Coburg the place to go midweek on the Wednesday evenings if you want to hear quality entertainment. Bring your lawn chair. You'll enjoy it. I put the poster on the very last page. That's the 11 by 17 poster. I'll just read off the names of the entertainers. Many of these you may know. You may have read about them. You may have heard about them. Coupe de Ville, who I mentioned. At the beginning, will be opening the show on July 5th. Kim Doolittle is now this week releasing her first CD. Cedar Rail is a country band. They have CDs available. He's just released his third. Greatest of Ease is not a recording act. Cale Crow. He is a remarkable entertainer. If you ever have a chance to see him, and I hope you do, he's a single artist. He has 2 CDs out now. Jason Maxwell, he contacted us from outside of our broadcast area wanting to participate in this event. His CD is now available for release at the end of this month, and we will be playing his first release on the radio station on the 13th of this month. Urban Angel has a CD out. Don Murdoch has a CD out. So we've raised the bar in terms of quality of entertainment because Coburg deserves it. We like music. It's all about the music. We're engaging with the community through as many vehicles that we can possibly lay our hands on that don't cost us anything. We're a nonprofit organization, but we also rely on donations from organizations to make this work. Printed media and other forms of publications cost directly to us. So I hope that the 1,500 will be approved, and we're very proud to have your logo on our posters and displayed at these concerts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barry, for that presentation and clearing that up. If you just stay at the mic, I'll ask members of council may have a question. I know the first one I have is, since this is being promoted as a Canada 150 event, did you apply to the Canada 150 committee for funding?
I did not. I'm just the coordinator. John Hill could probably answer that.
This came up after the applications closed.
Oh, okay. No, we didn't. This got launched after the applications for the Canada 150 were closed.
Oh. Okay. Questions, Councillor Darling?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for a very thorough report here. Personally, I've seen Kim Doolittle last summer in Peterborough at Summerfest. She is a very good artist, and Urban Angel are also a very good band. I think this is part of the cultural aspect that we're trying to promote in our community. So with everything you have here, I hope very much that we can support this. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Through your worship, and thank you, Barry, for your presentation. I'm pleased to see the depth that you went to, just not only in commercial and advertising, but actually setting dates for the different artists. I want to make a point of clarification because I think it's very important. On your first page, you make reference to Mr. Davey for the purpose of renting, and I'm going to take onus for that, and I'll tell you why. Because at that time, Councillor McCarthy and I actually chaired that committee, and I used both the deputy clerk and Mr. Davey for advice and direction. But ultimately, all the decisions generally come from the chair, and the chair happens to be me. So I'm going to apologize to you and to your organization because I missed a critical word as we read a multitude of applications, and the critical word I realized today I missed was the word "and." It seems simple, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And, but it's a very powerful word because we did present your first part, but in my misreading, which I'll take onus to, I missed your second part, which you're now asking for council's deliberation tonight. But I do want to thank you because these details certainly help me to realize the work and the effort you went through to make the Canada 150 Summer Music Series, in my opinion, a success. So I want to thank you and whoever assisted you in this manner for this information.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Darling.
Yes, I think this question is more for Deputy Mayor Henderson. Can you confirm that the actual amount was $1,500 in kind and the 15? So we were giving in kind for $1,500 for the rental of the band shell. Is that correct?
The way I read it, and Councillor McCarthy can maybe have a different interpretation, I read it as in kind, but when I did go back through, the way I read it or misread it was for acts on top of, which I didn't read it that way. I was reading it for in-kind services towards the act. So it's a very fine line. I wish I could say I personally went at that time and addressed Mr. Johnson or other members of Northumberland 89.7, but I did not. And so I'll take onus on that one. Councillor McCarthy might want to give
Are there any more questions
opinion?
for the presenter? Because we're getting into a debate and we don't have the topic on the floor yet. So I'm opening it up to questions to the presenter. Seeing none? Well then, thank you very much, Barry.
Thank you very much.
Your Worship, we have a delegation action. I believe it's under Parks.
Okay. Councillor Darling, you're up first for delegation actions.
Yes, I think the delegation action for the flagpole requests that it be referred to the Parks and Rec Committee for their decision over.
Okay.
That's my old fire department coming out in me. Oh. Yeah.
Are we good with that? Okay, seconder. Councillor Seguin. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Again, through Councillor Darlene to Director Husvik, I'm making a strong assumption with your excellent staff that this would be in place by July 1st.
Go ahead.
To the Deputy Mayor, I guess there's a couple things we would have to, subject to council direction, but we can look at options in terms of the placement, but we would probably also want to consult the Victoria Square committee because they have incorporated plans into those designs for three flagpoles for the Canadian provincial and municipal flags. So that's something we can certainly do as part of the review, and we can also look at options in Rotary Park along with electrical and other considerations, costs and timing. So we can bring that probably back fairly quickly.
And I would encourage you to include the location of the cairn at the same time. I believe the manager of parks is already looking into that. Any other discussion? All in favor? It's carried.
Your Worship, we now move to reports, and under Economic Development Services, we have a letter of resignation from Diane Lush, Downtown Marketing Partnership Committee member.
Deputy Mayor Henderson.
The action recommended that Council receive the letter of resignation with regret.
Seconder. Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, under General Government Services, we have the Committee of the Whole meeting notes.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Henderson again.
The action recommended that Council receive the notes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on March 6, 2017 for information purposes.
Okay, seconder. Councillor McCarthy. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, we have a memo from the Treasurer / Director of Corporate Services regarding the request for reconsideration of the Municipal Community Grant application of Northumberland 89-7 as approved by Council on January 30, 2017.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
I'm just going through my notes, Your Worship. Thank you.
Okay.
The action recommended that Council approve the request from Northumberland 89.7 FM for a cash operating municipal grant amount of $1,500 in addition to their previously approved in-kind grant approved by Council on January 30, 2017. And the addition would be, or amendment, the additional grant, if approved, could be funded from the approved contingency fund. Okay. And that would be my amendment to this motion.
Okay, so I need a seconder for that motion, and then Councillor Burkett again. Discussion on the motion with the added phrase. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to follow up with a question from Councillor Darling of whether or not the request was for $1,500, including the in-kind. And as you can see in the report from our Mr. Davey, the financial officer, the letter clearly states in the very first line, attached, please find our application for a donation in kind for the use of the band shell in Victoria Park and $1,500 to support our 12-evening summer series, Music in Motion 2017. When we work through all the applications to see if they're, and this would be the staff doing that, it would be our policy and bylaw officer, Mr. Larmer, and Mr. Davey, to see if they meet the criterion of our policy and the conditions under which they're approved to go forward for consideration. And it's one of the reasons that I know we want to look again at the policy, because the way we've set it up, it isn't clear enough for us to make decisions, and we need to improve on that. So the original spreadsheet was a community event plus in-kind contribution, $1,500, with an in-kind service for the band shell. But when it made it to council at the budget meeting in January 24th, it became an in-kind contribution, and that's what we thought at the time we were approving. And I didn't catch it either, and so I share the culpability. It's something that I should have caught at the time when we were debating this, to say, just a minute, this is in-kind for the band shell, $1,500. What I do see is that in the interim, some planning has really tightened on this event. It's more robust than the information at the time. However, they met all the criterion according to our policy to be considered. We just made the error. And so that's the point. It was both, and we missed it. But just to follow up, I actually, if I believe this is any kind of grant that should be approved under a municipal community grants request, for me this is one of them, because it's a free event and it's an arts and culture event, and it happens with Canada 150 and Coburg 2017, and it will be broadcast throughout the community, which it leverages all aspects of this cultural event for the 8 weeks of the summer. I see that they've gone from 12 to 8. I don't mind that because, in fact, it's a well-executed plan, and that's as important at being successful and meeting and reaching out to the community as having a larger number. So I will be supporting the Deputy Mayor's motion with the amendment from contingency funds. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Darling, you're next.
Yes, just thank Councillor McCarthy for that explanation. And just doing some quick math, it's 8 events for $1,500, less than $200 the event. So I think myself, I will be supporting the motion as well. Thank you.
Councillor Seguin.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy, for that explanation as well. I think this is a perfect thing for not only our Coburg 2017 Canada 150 events. Music is a big part of the culture of this community, and certainly the work that's gone into this and the tremendous work that Northumberland 89.7 does for the community. I also will be supporting this event, or this motion.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Again, Your Worship, I apologize for my poor listening skills. As I was reading the amendment, can I ask who seconded it?
Yes, it was Councillor Burkett.
Okay, thank you. Just so I know who to give it to later.
Councillor McCarthy.
And just a follow-up comment for Council and the public, Your Worship, you asked if they'd applied for Canada 150 funds, and for the reason provided, they did not. But I would also like to point out that the radio station embraced the Canada 150 event and applied for a summer student last year to create 50 vignettes of people in the area that have of note of who made impact on our community. It went beyond Coburg, which would probably be another reason they might not have qualified for a Canada 150 grant, because their listening audience goes far and beyond. But it's a wonderful part of the Canada 150 celebration that people can hear these stories, and there are 50 of them, and some of them are people from Coburg.
Okay, thank you. And I would agree that the music is very much of a part of the culture of Coburg, and people, whenever we have music in a venue in an open space in Coburg, people flock to it, and this certainly it fits into the whole theme of Canada 150 because it is a free event for the citizens of Coburg. So it's very, very, very worthwhile. Councillor.
I was just going to make a comment the fact that there will be a great economic spin-off in regards to downtown restaurants and whatever, because there will be a lot of people come in from out of town, no doubt, because of the amount of advertising here. And I think it's a great, and I'll be supporting this. So.
Quite possibly. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? It is carried.
Your Worship, next item is a memo from the Deputy Clerk regarding Bill 181, Municipal Elections Modernization Act, outlining the changes to the Municipal Elections Act and ranked ballot voting in municipal elections.
Hey, Deputy Mayor Henderson.
The action recommended that Council receive the report for information.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Darling. This is a very detailed report covering every aspect of the proposed changes or opportunities to change. Thank you very much, Deputy Clerk, for such a detailed report. I'm going to open up to members of council for discussion. Councillor Rowden first.
Yes, Your Worship, and I think a lot of this is in regards to voting in ward system, more so than some of the changes would be for an ordinary overall election. When I was looking at it there, I think that's basically what if we're going to do a lot of changes, we're going to have to change the ward system, I think, in the town of Coburg to make it work properly.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Worship. I left 2 questions with the clerk, and it might be early for him to have the answers. My first question to him was, does he yet know the actual date of the actual election, other than I know it's in October? And secondly, I've heard rumor there's a proposed date when the new council must take effect, and a date's been given. And I didn't know, with all of his workload, if he had an opportunity to find those two dates or not.
Okay, Mr. Larmer.
Yes, through your worship, to the deputy mayor. In the report, under their recommendation, I actually included it. It's the fourth Monday in October. It's October 22nd, 2018. In regards to if council would like to change the voting method of ranked ballots, the day for a bylaw to be passed is May 1st, 2017 this year, so before the election.
Thank you for that update. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor Rocknair. I find it that Councillor Rowden's comment echoes for me that the ranked ballot could work well where one person is going to come out the winner, such as an award system. Mr. Larmer sent us video postings on the Minnesota case study, and the first one, which was for one candidate, was, well, very easy. But when it came to more than one candidate, I thought, my goodness, who has written the software to allow for that for a 2018 election? And that is my question. I'm wondering if Mr. Larmer is aware of any of the municipalities using the ranked ballot approach that would be using it for an at-large council such as our own, if it exists.
Through your worship, to the Council McCarthy, I am not aware of anyone yet. The ranked ballot system is getting close in a couple of larger municipalities, which would be upper tier, which is London and Markham, and they're waiting to the last couple months to decide that through public meetings. So that's on the forefront, and they are in the ward system.
Okay, Councillor Burkett.
So I guess maybe a follow-up question. So the online voting software that we use currently, does it support the ranked ballot?
I have asked the question to our provider. Again, council hasn't elected to go alternative voting yet. That'll be coming up as well. But the provider that we've had in the past is ready and can hold and do a ranked ballot election.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Carried.
Your worship, next we have a report from the communications officer regarding the community engagement strategy for the waterfront user needs assessment.
Okay,
The action recommended that council support the implementation of the community engagement strategy for the waterfront user needs assessment as presented in the staff report.
Okay, seconder. Councillors Rowden, discussion on this? Deputy Mayor Henderson?
Through your worship, to Director Huswick or our deputy clerk, I appreciate the changes that were made. The only question I have, because I know you haven't had any meetings yet, have you hit a target date in your discussions when you think ultimately this may come back to council?
Go ahead, Mr. Huswick.
Your worship, to the deputy mayor, yes, within the project plan, we're working with the consultants to wrap things up more or less in September, and I think we do have a tentative date for coming back to council. We're going to be coming to council a couple times throughout this process, but I believe we're looking at
October 10th.
October 10th.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? It's carried.
Your worship, next we have a memo from the Director of Planning and Development regarding Sustainable Neighborhood Master Plan and implementing secondary plan and zoning bylaw for the Tannery District, RFP number CO 1624.
Councillor Burkett.
The action recommended that council receive the report for information purposes, and at this point I think I would like the director just to speak to it a little bit.
Will I get a seconder for that? Okay, Councillor Seguin. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you, you have a report from myself regarding the Tannery District Sustainable Neighborhood Master Plan. And the report provides a brief summary of the RFP process as well as the evaluation process for recommending a consulting team for this project. So essentially the goal of this master plan is to create a long-range overarching plan or vision for the Tannery District, which will ultimately guide the future reuse and redevelopment and revitalization of the Tannery property and the surrounding lands in the area. Of course, as we know, it is a brownfield area, and it used by a number of non-residential and residential uses. And so ultimately, the plan will include looking at the future comprehensive land use for the area, as well as looking at sustainable development techniques. Upon the closing of the RFP, we did receive 5 project bids from teams, and we utilized an evaluation team consisting of Councillor Burkett, the chair of the Planning Sustainability Advisory Committee, myself, and Lori Wills from the Department of Public Works, as well as one member of the Tannery District Citizens Group. We did invite 3 firms for an interview, and as a result of that process, our evaluation team concluded that FOTEN Planning and Design, in conjunction with Build Green Solutions, Crozier and Associates Engineering, and the Altus Group Economic and Marketing firm, be the successful project team for this particular project. And from our perspective, and I think it was a very strong consensus from the evaluation team, that the FOTEN group really kind of shone in a number of different areas, particularly their practical and senior team involvement in preparing sustainable development plans elsewhere. As well, we felt there was a genuine enthusiasm for the Tannery project and sustainable development techniques in general from the project team. And they certainly had an extensive amount of hours. Actually, it's a very large proportion of hours dedicated to this project in comparison to the others. So we felt that there was a very good, solid bang for the buck in this particular case. In addition, there was certainly a very methodical, empirical public engagement program as well that all of the teams did certainly propose. But the intent is to promote grassroots participation as well as an enhanced public awareness and education program. So the project, all of the firms did come within the budget allocation of $100,000. Half of that will be funded through the FCM, Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund, the other half through the town's Northam Industrial Park Reserve. And so our recommendation before you this evening is that the consulting team led by FOTEN Planning and Design, in conjunction with Build Green Solutions, Crozier Engineering Group, and Altus Group, be supported. Be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I think the report certainly speaks for itself, and the ranking, also speaks for itself. But I will open it up to members of council who may have questions. Seeing none, I'm calling for Councillor Darling.
Sorry, Your Worship, I was just thinking there. I just wanted to thank Glenn and his crew for a great report, and I was happy to see that you did include somebody from the Tannery Sustainability group there. I had worked on this in my previous coordinator position and was looking forward to it coming to head, so I'm really pleased that this report has come out. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Darling, and we were actually also very impressed with how the group really focused and worked together as a team to come up with this recommendation.
Okay, Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the team as well, because oftentimes we take the approach of the lowest value, but with the thorough analysis you did do, there in fact is greater value in that higher amount for the town of Coburg because of the extra hours. that are going to be provided to conduct the survey. And I just think that's a better and more astute evaluation, and will present something that's thorough and innovative for the town. Thank you.
Yeah, it just shows you how things change. You know, when I look at the list of bidders, Macaulay, Show Me House, and Brooke, that, you know, certainly Liz Howson was a go-to consultant for us many years ago. So things have obviously changed, and the evaluation process continues to work. Councillor Seguin.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Mr. McGlashan. When do you anticipate this will actually be completed? I mean, brownfields are always complicated things once you get into them, and I just wondered, pending no surprises, how soon do you think this will be complete?
Mr. Chairman, as part of the draft work plan that we're working towards, we're looking at approximately a 1-year period for this process, approximately spring of 2018.
All right, no more discussion. All in favor? And is carried.
Your Worship, we now have the motions.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Darling. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Chief Administrative Officer regarding the update of the 2015-2018 Town of Coburg Strategic Plan. Now therefore be it resolved that Council receive the report for information purposes and direct staff to post the report on the municipal website for public review and comment. And further, that staff prepare an updated implementation plan for approval, incorporating any public input and feedback for approval by Council for the purpose of carrying out the work of the Town of Coburg updated 2015-2018 strategic plan. And I believe, because all of Council was involved, I believe this recommendation motion certainly speaks for itself.
Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor Henderson again.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Darling. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Treasurer Director of Corporate Services regarding cancellation, reduction, or refund of taxes outlined in the final 2016 reduction of property taxes within the Town of Coburg. Now therefore be it resolved that Council approve the reduction of property taxes in the amount of $284,183.42. And Your Worship, if Mr. Davey wishes to speak to it, he certainly can. I know this is a housekeeping matter that we do each and every year.
Yes, and it's so it's. I believe that's the final one for 2016, is it not, Mr. Davey?
Yes, that's correct, Your Worship. This takes care of all the write-offs that happened between basically the 1st of July and the end of December 2016.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor Henderson again.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Darling. Whereas Council has considered a report from the Deputy Clerk regarding Bill 181, Municipal Elections Modernization Act, known as MEMA, outlining the changes to the Municipal Elections Act and ranked ballot voting in municipal elections. Now therefore be resolved that Council receive the report for information purposes, outlining the potential implications for the delivery of the 2018 municipal and school board elections contained in Bill 181, the Municipal Elections Modernization Act, and further that Council maintain the first past the post-election model for the 2018 municipal election, and further that the municipal clerk be directed to monitor ranked ballot elections in Ontario and report back to Council with an evaluation and an analysis after the 2018 municipal election.
Okay. Again, moved and seconded. Discussion on this. All in favor? Carried. And this is a motion from the delegation, I believe.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Burkett. That council reconsider the request from Northumberland 89.7 FM for a cash operating grant in the amount of $1,500, which would be in addition to the previously approved in-kind grant, and that this grant be used for the recording and broadcasting of their summer music series to be held at the band shell in Victoria Park. The additional grant, if approved, could be funded from the approved contingency fund.
Okay, moved, seconded. We've had lots of discussion on this. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion? It's carried. Councillor Rowden?
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCartney. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Director of Public Works regarding the James Street East Reconstruction Project funding. Now therefore it be resolved that Council proceed with the James Street East Reconstruction Project and approve the use of $459,000 taken from the Federal Gas Tax Fund and $120,000 from the Sanitary Sewer Reserves to fund the reconstruction of James Street East. As a result of the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, OSIF, funding application being unsuccessful for this portion of the 2017 capital budget. And of course, if Council remember, this has been an ongoing street that's been put on the back burner for quite a few years, and we did apply for some OSIF funding, and we were turned down this year, so it's a case of changing the way we do the funding.
Okay, discussion on this one. All in favor? Carried.
The next motion, Your Worship, is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCartney. Whereas the Committee of the Whole has considered a memo from the Secretary Environmental Active Transportation Advisory Committee regarding Pitch In Canada Week. Now therefore it be resolved that Council endorse the recommendations of the Environmental Active Transportation Advisory Committee and proclaim the week April 22nd to the 29th, 2017 as Pitch In Canada Week in the town of Coburg, and further that Council encourage citizens to participate in the local pitch-in event on Saturday, April the 22nd, 2017 in the town of Coburg, and the 9th annual 20-minute makeover on Friday, April the 21st, 2017, and further that the town of Coburg participate in the Mayor's Keep the County Clean Challenge. And this has been an annual event for quite some time. Hope that we get lots of participants.
And for just 1 year, I'd like to win the challenge.
Yes. You weigh it by tonnage, don't you?
Well, this also goes by population, so the smaller communities have a bit of an advantage. The number of pounds per person. Any discussion? Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to remind Council that that might be a rather long day, because if you come at 6:18 a.m. to Coburg Ecology Garden for the poetry contest, and then we clean up downtown, and then we have a barbecue in Grafton, go to bed early the night before. Thank you.
Well, it just gives everybody more time to pick up waste.
Yes, thank you, Councillor McCartney. That's
Start
true.
early. All in favor of the motion? Carried.
And the third motion, Your Worship, is moved by myself and seconded by Councillor McCartney. Whereas Council has considered a report from the Manager of Water Services, Lakefront Utility Inc., regarding the 2016 Coburg Water Treatment Plant Summary Report. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council receive the 2016 Town of Coburg Water System Plant Summary Report for information purposes, noting that the Coburg Water System received a final inspection rating of 98.82%.
It was an excellent report by Larry Spurka, the superintendent of our water system, and yes.
And the good news about it, Larry's taken over from Craig Books that
yes.
went to CAO in Colburn, Ramey Township, and he has just excelled from the moment he's moved into that position and he certainly amazes the committee when he's there. talking about the different things about the water system. So
Yes,
he's learned a lot in the short time he's been in the town of Coburg.
Yeah.
And he came from way up north.
Yes, it was. He does come from way up north. As a matter of fact, he still lives up there. Comes down to work during the week. So it was good succession planning on our part.
Exactly.
At Lucy. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Burkett.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Darling. Whereas Council considered the report from the Director of Planning and Development regarding the Sustainable Neighborhood Master Plan and implementing secondary plan and the zoning bylaw for the Tannery District, RFP number CO-16-24. Now therefore be resolved that Council authorize the award of the Sustainable Neighborhood Master Plan and implementing secondary plan and zoning bylaw for the Tannery District project to Photon Planning plus Design and Green Build or Build Green Solutions in association with Crozer and Associates and Altus Group at the cost of $100,000.
Okay, moved and seconded. We've had the discussion. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, now we have the reading of the bylaws.
Just before we get into bylaws, since if I recall correctly, Councillor Darling did make a declaration of interest at the public meeting last week on this the bylaw, the planning bylaw for Foodland. And would you, Councillor Darling, prefer to have that one separated out so you can vote on the other two?
Yes, Your Worship, I would.
Okay, so would you record that conflict of interest? All right. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Worship. At this point, there are three bylaws, but I'll be defining at first the first two, just for everybody's clarity. So, Worship and members of Council, there are two bylaws for presentation, namely, at this point, and I'll come back to the third later. A bylaw authorizing an agreement between the Town of Coburg and the Ministry of Transportation under the Federal Public Transit Infrastructure Fund, known as PTIF, Phase 1 Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement. A bylaw to lift 1 foot reserves and to authorize the laying out of public highways. And I move first reading be given to these bylaws.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Your Worship, I move that Council go into the Committee of the Whole for the second reading of these bylaws.
Seconder. Councillor Rowden. All in favor? Carried. And so, Councillor Rowden, you're on first for the second reading.
Yes, Your Worship. And I give second reading to the bylaw authorizing an agreement between the Town of Coburg and the Ministry of Transportation under the Federal Public Transit Infrastructure Fund, PTIF, Phase 1 Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement. And I give that second reading.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
So
the next one is the next one a planning or a public works? The 1 foot, is it? Okay, public works.
And a bylaw to lift 1 foot reserves and to authorize the laying of out of highways. I give the second reading.
Okay, and I was confused when I read this, so maybe maybe we could call on Mr. Thrasher just to give an explanation so people understand what this really means.
Your Worship, I believe that this is really a cleanup exercise to take care of those 1 foot reserves that are out there. However, the Deputy Clerk is probably better able to speak to the details of this report.
Okay.
I'm up. Okay.
Mr. Larmer.
Through Your Worship, to Council, this is exactly what Mr. Thrasher said is the cleanup bylaw. Basically, these are put on by the Planning Department for development, for subdivisions, to not allow developers to develop on the other side. So currently, on paper, these section of these 1 foot reserves are don't allow on paper access to their driveways. So lifting these will allow legal access to their to the extension of the road. On council's desk, there also is an amendment to the appendix. Myself and the manager of planning, we love this stuff. He went down to the land registry office and accessed some of the old drawings. Me being a newer generation, I have access to an online electronic land registry system. So we finally got together today, and we are able to reduce it because the electronic land registry system is a little bit more updated information. So there's an amended appendix on your desk, too, for the bylaw.
Very good. Any questions on that? All in favor of the second reading? And it's carried.
That the committee rise.
All in favor? Carried.
Your worship, bylaws, a bylaw authorizing an agreement between the town of Coburg and the Ministry of Transportation under the Federal Public Transit Infrastructure Fund, PTIF Phase 1 Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement, a bylaw to lift 1-foot reserves, and to authorize the laying out of public highways have received first and second readings without amendment. And I move the third reading be given these bylaws and finally passed and ordered signed by the mayor and municipal clerk with the corporate seal affixed.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Burkett. All in favor? Carried.
Going back to our remaining bylaw, your worship and members of council, there's one bylaw for presentation, namely a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 85/2003 to permit the redevelopment of the site for a new expanded Foodland supermarket. And I move that first reading be given this bylaw.
All in favor? Carried.
Your worship, I move that council go into the committee, in this case, regular council, for the second reading of this bylaw.
Okay, seconder. Councilor Seguin. All in favor? Carried. And Councilor Burkett for second reading.
A bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 85/2003 to permit the redevelopment of the site for a new expanded Foodland supermarket. I move this for second reading.
Okay. And we did have a public meeting on this last week. We had members of the public show up to the public meeting, and everyone who was here was talked in support of it, that we didn't have any opposition to it at all. So any discussion on it? All in favor of the second reading? Carried.
That the committee rise.
All in favor? Carried.
Your worship, the bylaw authorizing to amend zoning bylaw number 85/2003 to permit the redevelopment of the site for a new expanded Foodland supermarket has received first and second reading without amendment. And I move third reading of this bylaw, that this bylaw finally be passed and ordered signed by the mayor and municipal clerk with the corporate seal affixed.
Okay. Seconder. Councilor Seguin. All in favor? Carried.
Your worship, we now have the council coordinator announcements.
Okay. I do have a couple of items. I'm going to start. We've had a few financial announcements supporting our industry in the town of Coburg in the last couple of weeks. So we started off a week ago Friday at Brand New Foods, and everybody knows that's the producer of the kale chips. They've been very, very successful, in marketing their product. Not only are they the largest kale supplier in Canada, they're in the top 3 in all of North America, and they're currently looking to expand their markets more globally. So there was a $100,000 investment in that business last week from the government. The MP and MPP were there to make that announcement, and of course the money that they gave them was supporting the Brand New Foods investment in high technology equipment that not only allows them to produce a high quality product but a very efficient manner. There was another announcement today, and the Northumberland CFDC is also providing support for Eastern Ontario Youth STEM, S-T-E-M, which really stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics, with an investment of $488,000 under the Eastern Ontario Development Program, Collaborative Economic Development Projects. So this total funding will invest in the next generation of young science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and technical skilled trades graduates in rural and eastern Ontario. So the announcement today at Protoplast was for $75,000, which will go to creating new jobs in the highly technical area of 3D printing. 3D printing has taken over the mold industry by storm. It allows them to produce a product with a printer before they even make the mold, and it allows them to market a product and show their customers exactly what they can produce at a very, very low cost in a very short period of time. So it's a great new technology, and it's going to not only advance them further in terms of developing their business, but also it will create new jobs at Protoplast. And that's all my report. Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine's very brief. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Susan Beer, who was a town employee, generally one of the first staff that you meet when you come into the administrative side. It's hard to believe that Susan spent 35 years with the town. She looks like she's 19. But I would say to her, best wishes and success. And on the other note, I attended a celebration of life for Mr. Richard Randall. And to Richard and to his family, I just want to say a sincere thank you, because I've known Richard, how he's enriched our heritage master plan and everything dealing with the town, and his contributions were immense. So I know he'll be dearly missed, certainly on the Heritage Committee. That is my report, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Darling.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a kind of a lengthy one here. We got a lot of stuff going on in parks that's coming up. First of all, I'd like to make an announcement for a public meeting and information session in regard to fishing in Coburg Creek. The meeting will be held March 28th at 4 p.m. in the Rotary Room at the Coburg Public Library, and all interested parties can attend that. In our parks, we have the waterfront users' needs and assessment detailed design. We're working on the public engagement strategy, and there will be extensive opportunities for participation. Planning work is now underway, including meetings with municipal officials. The public process kicks off in April with many more throughout the spring and summer. We're going to start off with an open house April 4th, stakeholder meetings April 10th and 11th, and an online resident survey in late April. And there will be more information in the near future with confirmed times and locations for these events. Our Communities in Bloom, we're working on an application for the Nationals at this time. We will be advertising for a new committee member. Unfortunately, we had a member resign. And the judges for this event will be here in July. We will also be having a booth at the Home Show April 29th and 30th. Along with our blue flag, we've applied again this year, and we will find out in May if we are successful. I don't anticipate any problems with that. During the off-season, our park staff built 20 picnic tables for the parks and 10 for the marina. Sometimes people wonder what park staff do during the cold weather, but we like to keep them busy even in the winter. For our greenhouse, they're preparing the operation to produce the beautiful plants and flowers that we'll see around town. Anybody who wants to can come to our open house May 13th from 9 till noon. And as usual, the community center is very busy during the recreation events. For many months now, recreation staff have been working very hard with local and provincial leaders and volunteers to organize major sports, tours, and events at the CCC. The provincial's men's and women's curling championships, the 55 winter games, were extremely well run and successful. Now we're turning more attention to next two major events, which is the RBC Cup Junior A Canadian Championships, May 13th to the 21st. Don't forget, tickets are on sale for that event now. And we have a Coburg Pickleball Tournament, June 10th and 11th. It was started a few years ago and is growing quickly, drawing players from all over the province. We're kind of hoping we can establish Coburg as one of the major pickleball centers. The town of Coburg is excited to announce the launch of a new fitness program at the CCC. Restart Fit, it's called, has been specifically designed to offer safe and developmental physical activity for cancer and breast cancer survivors. The Restart program will run on Wednesday evening from March 22nd to May 10th. Individual sessions are 1 hour long from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Coburg Community Center. The registration fee is $45 plus HST, and registration is available now until March 22nd. For more information about the program, visit ccccoburg.ca or call 905-372-7371. And for the kids, we have March Break Kids Camps in session, and there's still openings for that, even if they want to bring their child just for a day. The spring programs will begin in April and May, and summer camp registration will open on April 1st. We'll be running 9 weeks of camp this summer, beginning Tuesday, July 4th, and running until September 1st. Our popular Crazy Camps are back, as well as Mad Science and Chef Messy Camp. So the only other event I have is just for people to keep in mind, the Canadian National Fastball U16 event will be held at Legion Fields this summer. And I'm sure if people still want to get on board volunteering, these events will be more than happy to accept those volunteers. And that is my report.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Darling. And as far as pickleball goes, they did have a tournament last year, and I understand they drew from as far away as Windsor. People drove all the way from Windsor to play pickleball, so that shows that it definitely a growth sport. And I did talk to one fellow who was involved in the tournament last year, said that their next goal is to hold the provincial championships here in Coburg at the CCC.
Very good.
Questions? Deputy Mayor Henderson.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Darling, I apologize. I know I had the date of the fishing meeting, the Rotary Room in the library. I missed the time on that.
It's 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay,
That's
thank
correct.
you.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you. Through you to Councillor Darling, this may not have filtered through to you yet, but I was wondering if you might follow up at the next council coordinator report of the legacy that of many that the Ontario 55 plus Winter Games wanted to leave, and that is a volunteer registry for our community. Because with all of this sports tourism coming, the knowledge of who's done what and who knows what and who's got what training and who we can call on, and I think this is a really, really important initiative, and I'm hoping that it'll be recreation and culture volunteer registry at some point. So stay tuned for that.
Sounds like a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Rowden, you're next.
Thank you, Your Worship. And first off the bat on the roads, Public Works, we have a tender tomorrow. It'll be closing at 2 p.m. for the James Street project. So, and of course, that was one of the motions tonight here in regards to the funding. And the tender for Hardin Street Bridge project closes on April the 4th. That's an area that people would like to watch this summer if that goes ahead to detour around, because I believe the bridge is going to be a major overhaul, if I'm right there, Mr. Thrasher. The public meeting for the Darcy Street residents to discuss traffic calming work is scheduled for the Thursday, April the 6th. Mark your calendars at the CC Center in the Chemical Room. Notices will be hand-delivered to the residents in multi-unit buildings on the street, and I think that's one of our unfinished business items on our agenda here that is coming forward, so that can be removed off the agenda like that. And more vehicles have been returned from the restoration company, and they're finally getting them all cleaned up from all the smoke and soot. I believe there's only 2 more trucks left to come that need to be cleaning. So the roads crew are starting to get their brush cut on the east end of Coburg here on the rural areas, so that's sort of spring work that's being done way ahead of advance of time that they normally have to do it, but I imagine they're likely out working tonight because of the snowstorm we're supposed to get. So. And then the other items would be, if anyone's interested, I have tickets, the Kanaraska Conservation Dinner, which is an annual event. I think it's 27th year, I believe, or 28th year this year. 28th year this year, and the tickets are now on sale, and it's April the 8th at the Lion Center, and the tickets are the same price they were last year, $70 per person, and there's a tax receipt for that. And the other item that I have, I'm the chair at the Water Committee at Lakefront Utilities, and some of the report on it is public information. Most of it, you would get a copy of the minutes in your mail through the clerk here. But I'll just bring your attention on a couple items that have been done, and I've got to give Larry Spurka a real good hand of applause to the fact that he has just moved in, as I mentioned before, and taken over a real good as a job that normally would be a year in training. But some of the things that he's brought forward already is even our raw water intake inspection, which is a few thousand feet out in the lake out there, and those kind of things that the general public don't even realize. The water comes through the tap, and that's all they ever think of it with these inspections, and they have to be done on a yearly or bi-yearly basis. That if there's any small things wrong whatsoever, which I understand this year that the buoy markers, the chains out there have to be replaced because they're getting rusty, and of course they have to inspect them for beaver mussels. So it's an ongoing thing. They're working in coordination with the Public Works Department on the James Street and the corner of College and Division Street there for the new construction. So there's a lot of pre-work to be done ahead of time, ahead of the construction. And other than that, most of things are up and up. And I look forward to that public meeting for the fishing in the creeks, because I think it's time. Port Hope, I understand, went ahead with that, and I think it's a great idea to get a bylaw in place before they start making a real disaster over there.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rowden. I know you weren't available to make the meeting last week, but we did have a meeting with the Chief of Police, the Deputy Chief of Police, our Director of Public Works, Mr. Thrasher, the CAO, myself, and there were 3 members from the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School administration as we continue to work on the pedestrian safety issue down at the Collegiate and Cottesmore. So I think it's important to let people know that we're still working on that, and hopefully we're going to come up with an announcement in the near future that will at least make people understand that we are committed to a safe community. Councillor Burkett. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on the comment you made, I wanted to share with you and Council that I realize the focus is King Street East and the schools, but I did receive a phone call from a parent on the quarter of Burnham Street and the 2 schools and parking. And I know safety, a safe community is important everywhere, but that seems to be another hot spot with children and safety and cars parked illegally and people in a hurry. So I'm hoping that an eye will be given to that area too, because we know with children walking, it's an issue. I just have 2 things to give in my report. The accessibility advisory committee, we're meeting Wednesday, but sometimes information comes through that's worth for the public to hear. And this is about a public forum that's being held here in Coburg by the AODA Alliance. This is an advocacy group for accessibility implementation that was very active in the early years, and then everybody kind of just sat back for a while. I think everybody needed to catch their breath. But as I've mentioned previously, this is heating up because the deadlines are looming, and the event is at the library Saturday, April 8th from 1 to 3 p.m., and the speaker is David Lipovsky, who's chair of AODA Alliance, and many of us would be familiar with David. He's worked tirelessly as the chair of that advocacy group. The other report I want to make is with respect to Coburg Fire Protection Services. Being a new counselor in that portfolio, I'm apprising myself of training opportunities, and one was just perfect timing. And it's the Office of the Fire Marshal and Emergency Management that offers a course called The Essentials of Municipal Fire Protection and Emergency Planning. Most of council, with your backgrounds, would be very aware of all of these pieces that go into it, but for myself, it was mind-boggling. Fire management, 21 provincial pieces of legislation, 5 federal pieces, and then all the regulations, highly, highly regulated for good reason. But the point I wanted to share, and more for the public than council, is that the 3 lines of defense for fire management there are 3 of them. And intuitively, when I said to them that day at training, well, you know, when most people think of fire services, they want to think of firemen going out and fire persons going out and putting out a fire. But in fact, under the legislation, the most important activities of fire management first is public safety through education, and the second one is prevention. Third is meeting the needs of an emergency, in other words, fire suppression. So in fact, a great deal of the effort that our fire personnel engage in is educating and preventing, and that goes in hand with our building codes and everything. So that's in the legislation. I found that very, very interesting. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Burkett.
So I'd just like to thank Deputy Mayor Henderson for talking about Richard Randall. That's very much appreciated. He will be missed for sure on the Heritage Committee. Those are going to be some big shoes to fill. So I thank you for that. Just some other little items, I guess. Just ongoing construction and progress in West Park, as well as New Amherst and East Village there as well. There's some other stuff I know that Glenn has been having meetings with some other submissions that once those, I know more of them, we'll bring them forward. If you haven't seen the cookie place, its building has form now, and it like you can kind of get the sense of what it's going to look like. They do not have siding or anything like that up, so you should at least check that out if you want to know what it looks like. And I believe that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Seguin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to make sure you all have your 6/18 date for the Poet Laureate because I asked Ted to come here and read a poem, so I'm glad he actually did that. And I just wanted to follow up Canada 150 Committee. We met last week, and Canada Week is going to be an amazing week. We've got still a committee that meets, and there's a table full of people that really have made this an amazing effort for Coburg 2017. And for Canada Week, we've got a Guinness World Record that we're going to attempt. They haven't told us what we're going to attempt yet, but it is in there. Coburg Waterfront Festival, of course, fireworks, a community time capsule that I think will be opened in 2027. Confederation tea, so I'm hoping that everyone gets their outfits made, and this will be a great tea. They're collecting teacups from all over the town for this Confederation tea. Old-fashioned family picnic, music in the park, 150 Day, and the Iron Ore Car Day. The Arts and Culture Committee have spoken to the group in the work out of the CCC. They're carving individual wood squares, and they're making a wood square quilt. And so we're hoping to find a place to, must be the wood covers are coming in, to display this, because they've really put a lot of work into this. And the Heritage and History Committee are working on an 8-page booklet about Coburg history that is going to be sent to everyone in town. So that'll be exciting. Former Mayor Joan Chalovich is part of that group. Marketing Committee are committing to work with Lara to ensure banners are up. If you've noticed, a few more have gone up. They're pretty much all over town now. And the 150 pins that many of us wear, we made 5,000, and 3,000 have now been out in the community. So they're really well received. And Sports and Sports History Committee have been hard at work gathering info on over 60 sports that have been played here in Coburg. Check out the displays at the CCC for some of the history of our sports heroes. And you mentioned the volunteer registry, Councillor McCarthy. Volunteers are soon going to be needed for some of these events, so let us know if you can help. And of course, stay up to date on the year-long events at coburg2017.com. Victoria Square Phase 4, we've been holding regular weekly meetings to finish the design elements as directed by Council, and they will be presenting both the design and budget figures at the Committee of the Whole on April 17th, so we'll look forward to those. Santa Claus Parade has been a big issue. As you know, we've had a parade here in Coburg for the last 30 years, and the Lions Club have asked for some help to help the parade continue. Director Huskwick and Lara Scott have had meetings with the Lions Club and the DBIA to find a solution for the parade. And of course, we've heard the key issues are liability and insurance. And there's also an issue of where to store Santa's float. And the old Public Works site on King Street may be a possibility. We're going to have a few more meetings, and I will be part of those meetings, and I think that it's something to find. Hopefully we can find a solution for this parade sooner rather than later, so we can book our bands, and because they are in big demand because of the Canada's 150. The Coburg Downtown BIA, we talked about the Artstown project, and I know Warren McCarthy is with us this evening in the audience. He's been working really hard, and the second installation, Art de Triomphe, has been installed at the exhibit of their artwork at 43 King Street West. These are really making a difference to help populate some of the empty windows downtown. And there's another one planned for the Art Gallery of Northumberland at the window of 99 King West. That's right next to Northumberland today. So take a look, walk by, and Warren has really proven that one individual can really make a difference. He is realizing now that it is a lot of work, the logistics and trying to coordinate with landlords and trying to get these buildings open, trying to get the windows cleaned because some of them have been empty a long time and they're not exactly in pristine shape. So if anyone has any ideas in the public forum around the council table, let us know, and we can hopefully make this continue and make it the effort that it was at first envisioned to be. And there's also the old, I think it was Woolworth building on the corner of King and Division. There's an idea there that possibly turning that into an art market gallery, but that takes a lot of work, and again, it's something that we need a champion to come forward to make things like that happen. Public school, the Public Library Board received a letter from Lydia Smith, name well known to some of you. She's finding the library website difficult to maneuver and slow to load, and Kara has been working with Lydia and sent her some links to help her search a little bit better, and Tammy Robinson has also been alerted. So hopefully we can find resolutions to both that and for Lydia's problems and others trying to find the live streaming of our council meetings. And also at the library, there's great March break things that are taking place there, so look it up on the library website. And they've got a bunch of things for kids to do, including amazing dinosaurs and puppet theaters, and they're just an amazing library for sure. The Art Gallery of Northumberland Board, we met last week. The new director of the Art Gallery, I don't know if you've all met him, James Campbell, presented his first report at our board meeting, and he's getting reacquainted with the local community, feeling very welcome. And I did ask Mr. Davies about the plaster repair at the gallery. Apparently that's going to be done sometime in June, and they were working around some shows and the availability of someone to do that work. And during March break at the gallery, the kids they're going to do Fun with Fiber, a free art fair just for the kids, and they're asking people to drop by Monday, on March the 15th from 12 to 4 to meet local weavers, rug hookers, spinners, knitters, and felters. And this is a free family event for anyone that wants to have something to do with those kids that have been around now for a few days and need something to do. and it coincides with the show Then and Now, the rug hooking exhibit that is now at the in the art gallery. And last thing, the annual fundraiser. I mentioned this. The last council meeting for the AGN is being held on March 25th at the Dalewood Golf Course in Port Hope. The theme is Put Your Heart into Art. Visitor call the gallery for tickets. And before I close, I wanted to thank Mr. Huswick for all of his meetings and bringing me up to speed on all the multitude of things that this portfolio holds, and I'm just absolutely loving it, and I really appreciate all the help from everyone here and from you specifically. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Seguin.
Worship.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not quite yet. I just wanted to share with Council that I was able to go to the Rug Hookers exhibit in the gallery last Thursday night. This is part of Canada 150. And it's because I've been with the gallery all along, it's so rewarding to see an exhibition that is stunning visually and has local artists involved as well as national artists, but had the biggest turnout ever for opening night. It was wall-to-wall people. And I can't say enough about this exhibit, and also wanted to tell you that one of the featured artists, and her work is stunning, is one of the seniors in our community, Joyce Jones. She lives in Baltimore. And this exhibition, it shows the work of fiber artists that do rug hooking from the province, but very much highlights Northumberland County. And the reason I'm mentioning this in detail is because, as well, this exhibition is going to have pop-up galleries throughout Northumberland County. And that's what the gallery intended to be, was a Northumberland, and the county has provided funding for that to happen. So it's going to also be in Brighton, Campbellford, Colborne, and Port Hope. But finally, because Councillor Darling did not mention this, at the CCC on Saturday, April 30th, at the Community Centre of Coburg, is the conference of the Guild of Rug Hookers, and it's going to be amazing. 300 of them are coming, 600 pieces, and I mean, we're talking, some of them it just takes your breath away, are also coming. So I just wanted you to say that it's the Ontario Hooking Craft Guild is hosting an open house to the community. There is a small admission charge, but believe me, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is on par with getting into the Art Gallery of Ontario. When you walk into a room of visual color, three-dimensional, but you also see the stories of people and crafts from Newfoundland getting through those winters, and it's just astonishing. Can't say enough about it, so I will be quiet, but everybody should go. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Limer, I believe we have one item of business left.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. Whereas the Committee of the Whole considered applications to fill 2 vacant positions on the Economic Development Advisory Committee. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council appoint Randy Curtis and Robert Bob Hasiak as members of the Economic Development Advisory Committee.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Burkett.